All right, and we're live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's the Black Powder Podcast, hosted by yours truly, Marcus Matthews, the only real libertarian, might I add.
Deal.
Only one. And I'm joined by my co-host, the great Eric Parker, formerly of Jacksonville. Oh, was that a secret?
Nope, it's out now. So
Okay. Well,
I'm
formerly of
officially moved
yeah,
to North Carolina. We
North
now
Kakalaki.
reside in High Point, North
Nice.
Carolina, which is kind of in between Winston-Salem when you're rocking the Winston-Salem hat.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
Winston-Salem and Greensboro, it's like just south and 20 minutes from each, basically. So
Awesome. And today, well, a few weeks back, I went to a Chase Oliver event out here in California, and I was able to meet some interesting people, some people that really got my blood boiling for libertarianism, even though what she does is not officially a libertarian thing. With You Are the Power, the Spike Cohen's organization, we have Mimi Robson, right?
Robson.
Robson, my bad. And
It's all right.
what's funny is I was just telling Eric that Americans should get a pass if they can't pronounce a non-Anglo-Saxon last name, and I'm sure Robson is that Irish or what is that?
It's Irish.
Okay. See how good I am at understanding Anglo-Saxon things, because I'm a black Irishman. When I was much younger, my beard was red. So I know somewhere down the line that, a wee bit of Irish in me might say.
have you done your 23andMe?
No, because I don't want to find out I have some random kid somewhere out there in the world, or I've been linked to a crime scene. So I'm
Yeah, good point. Yeah,
yeah.
the feds already got my DNA from when I was in the military. So
Yeah, well, they got my fingerprints and all because I work quote unquote government job, whatever. But
Gotcha.
anyway, Mimi,
Yes.
tell us about yourself.
Okay. So, well, my name's Mimi. That's pretty simple. I'm a lifelong Californian. I'm pretty much a lifelong libertarian. I've been a libertarian, I think, since I was born, even though it didn't exist. My dad was an anarchist in the 60s. So
Nice.
I think I came by it kind of naturally. So I've been a registered libertarian probably longer than, a lot of y'all have been alive. I registered and joined the party in 1982. So
Well, I'm
it's been a minute.
Yeah.
And I over the years I've done a lot of activism. I was primarily more of an activist for many years. Like when I was in college, I helped run the libertarian group on my campus, which was Cal State Long Beach. And I was very involved in activism. I've always been a libertarian, but I didn't get really super involved in the party as far as any kind of leadership until I ran for office in 2016. So I ran in 2016 for state senate. And if y'all are from California, you might have heard of Ricardo Lara.
Yeah.
He was running unopposed. He's a horrible, horrible person, but he was running unopposed at the time. And I was able to go in as a write-in because nobody else was running against him. And I made it to the top 2 with 42 votes. And that kind of, got me more involved with the party because it was the state chair at the time that called me to tell me he was running unopposed and get me to run. Uh-huh. And fun story, he called me when I was on my way home from work, and I hadn't actually ever talked to Ted Brown. And by the time I got home from work, I told my husband that I was running for state senate. And am I allowed to use profanity here?
Absolutely fucking yeah.
Okay. And my husband said, what the fuck are you thinking? Are you fucking crazy? It's like, oh yeah, I guess I am, because an hour phone call convinced me. So at that point, then I saw that the party had some kind of issues. So I ended up being appointed and then running for secretary. And then the next year I ran for state chair. So I was the California state chair for 5 years. Last year I did not run for reelection. For a number of reasons that I won't go into, but
Gotcha.
Some people might probably guess what that might be.
Now, in 2018, you ran again, and you got a considerable portion of the votes as a libertarian here in
Yeah.
the beautiful state of California. 27% is nothing to shake a stick at.
Yeah, and actually in 2016, when I came in as a write-in, I ended up getting over 20% in that vote, which was like 50,000 votes. And
Yeah.
then in 2018, it was kind of exciting because I planned to run, and I ran in the primary. It was a contested primary. There was 4 people running, and I actually ran as best a campaign as a libertarian can. I raised, I think, about $35,000 during the course of the campaign. And for the primary, I made it to the top 2 in a contested primary. And that was really pretty big because in 2010, California voted for Proposition 14, which started the top 2 primaries.
Mhm.
Before that, we had partisan primaries. And it's very, very difficult for a libertarian to come in the top 2, unless, like I did in 2016, somebody's running unopposed.
Right.
So the fact that I beat a Green Party candidate and another Democratic Party candidate to get into the top 2, I was able to actually get a lot of media attention, press. It got my name out there even more. I think I had name recognition from the first time I ran. And I should mention that my real name is Honor Robson, not
Yes,
Mimi.
I saw that.
And it's kind of fun because Honor is a really good name for running for office, I found out.
It is
At the
very
grocery
good
market
name.
one night, I was talking to the checker, and the person behind me is like, "Oh, you're running for office? I already voted. What's your name?" And I said, "Honor Robson." She said, "Oh, I voted for you. I love your name." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, that works. That works." So
good.
yeah, in that race, I actually, I did very well, and it also got a lot of attention to the party, and it allowed me to do things like write op-eds for the Southern California News Group.
Mhm.
It gave me kind of a platform after the fact. So I thought it was really good for libertarians in general to get our name and our message out to voters. And I believe I did that in that race. So I was pretty proud of myself, actually.
Awesome. Eric, did you have something?
So whenever you ran and was elected as the state chair, was that after those races, and between those races, during those races?
Okay, so the first run was before I ran for secretary, and I actually ran or got appointed secretary after that election because I saw that there were some issues in the state party. The second one, I hadn't planned on running for state chair, but the current state chair was moving out of state, like many people are doing now, and he moved to Texas. And so a lot of people thought I should run for state chair. So I assumed, and you should never assume, I assumed that I would not make it to the top 2. So our convention was in April, and I thought by June, or by the primary, it would all be over. Much to my surprise, I made it to the top 2. So I was doing both at the same time.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I was doing a lot of other stuff too. I was like on the national national platform committee. I was doing all kinds of stuff, and it was a lot of work. But yeah, I didn't know that I just didn't even imagine I was going to make it to the top 2 because it hadn't happened before. So I hadn't intended to do both at once, but I did.
Awesome. Now, we've had Spike Cohen on the Black Powder podcast 2 times, and I've been on his podcast before. And the last 2 times he was on, he mentioned an organization that he founded that, right? You Are the Power.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you are the Southwest Regional Director for You Are the Power.
Regional organizer, but
regional organizer. My bad. Regional
That's
organizer.
all right.
So, can you tell us about the You Are the Power organization? It's a 50. What was it?
501c3, 501c4. So
Okay.
It's nonpartisan. It is a charitable organization. It does not support any particular party. It doesn't support any particular candidate. It can't, actually. It's
Right.
nonpartisan. But what I like about it is it's a very strong libertarian message. And of course, everybody knows, well, lots and lots of people know Spike Cohen, and everybody that knows Spike Cohen knows that he was our 2020 vice presidential candidate.
Right.
So he obviously comes with a very libertarian perspective. And what I find really exciting about what You Are the Power is doing is you know, as the party, we're trying to get people elected to change things. And in order to get the changes, you have to get the people elected. So we get people like Jeff Hewitt, who is elected county supervisor, no longer that, but another story. And he can do libertarian things to try to get more libertarian solutions. What You Are the Power is doing is it's helping in communities for people to understand that the government, you know, it oftentimes does more harm than good. It oftentimes uses force and coercion, and it oftentimes takes away our ability to do what we want to do to help other people, especially, and they try to stop that. And so You Are the Power is, in my opinion, working on real libertarian solutions that are happening now. We don't have to wait for an elected to do that. All we have to do is empower people to realize that they are the power, right? They have the ultimate power if they organize and use it. So that's what I find really exciting about You Are the Power.
Right. So with that being said, can you speak to the works that You Are the Power is currently undertaking, specifically in the Southwest region? Because I remember seeing that thing about that church that was feeding homeless people. I forgot what state that was in.
That was
That was in Gastoria.
Yes.
Yeah, Gastoria. Where is that?
North Carolina, right?
Yeah, North Carolina.
Was it North?
Yeah, and that was, well, you know, just real quick, that whole story started with something different. What that started with was a gentleman, Joshua Royer. He is a homeless man. He's a veteran. He lives in Gastoria. He was being helped by the only group in the city that helped homeless or unhoused, whatever you want to call them, people.
We're not PC. Go ahead.
And he was harassed by the police for doing absolutely nothing wrong except for he was standing on the street, and the people in the community loved him. He had a service dog named Sunshine. The people loved his dog, and they would come and they would give him food for his dog. They'd give him a few bucks. He wasn't doing anything wrong, and they were harassing him. They arrested him. They tased his dog and killed his dog.
Right. I remember that.
Which was horrible. So through that action, trying to help him, you know, like getting the body cam footage released and all of that to show that he was truly doing nothing wrong. What we found out at that time was that Pastor Moses, which was running the homeless, not a shelter, but a place for homeless people to get food, for them to stay if they needed to get services, and the city council was trying to shut them down. And so that's when we got involved in that part. So it turned into, and we lost.
He'll be back. It is the connection error.
Yeah. So that's kind of what happened with that. And that was Peace, Love, and Hope. And that was, you know, that was one of the things that Spike, you know, he went down, he got all kinds of media attention, he got community involvement. And we're able to help both Joshua and then in turn Pastor Moses with his situation. So I just thought I'd just mention that because that was, you know, that was a pretty big success.
Right. You know, like we understand that we can't talk specifically. Yeah, that was Eric just texted me. He'll be right back.
Okay.
Like, well, this is my opinion, not yours. And I'm talking from the libertarian perspective. But, you know, one of Spike's favorite quotations is, without government, who would kill your dog? And, hold on, my guy's back. I like how we rotate it. But without government, who would kill your dog and stop you from living your life when you're doing no harm to anybody else? And I think with I've seen the works of You Are the Power, because there was another very similar story where a church was helping feed homeless people, and the government was trying to shut them down. And I remember talking to Spike about this. I was like, you know, the reason government tries to shut these things down is because they need you to, right? They need you to have problems so they could justify their existence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They need the homelessness problem. What are they doing in California? They're
Yeah.
using that to get more and more and more and more money. It's not helping the homelessness problem. It's making it worse. They're taking our money, they're using it foolishly, and they're not helping anybody. But then in California, if we go out and try to feed people, you can't
They'll shut
do
you down.
that.
Yeah,
You know, they'll shut you down because first of all, it has to be, you know, approved dietary stuff, and the FDA has to be okay with it and stuff like that, which is just completely entirely ridiculous. But they get all involved and they don't want individuals to help other individuals. And it's government does, like I said at the beginning, government does more harm than good for the most part. It may seem
Absolutely.
well intentioned. They may even mean it to be well intentioned.
Yeah. Well,
But ultimately, they're trying to take the power.
Yeah, because I know in Long Beach, here in California, we have a very, very primitive public transportation system, and it ends in Long Beach, and a lot of times homeless people ride that, and then they kick everybody off at the end of the line. They end up in Long Beach, and that has, you know, I'm not saying homeless people create crime, but a lot of times these are crimes of desperation and crimes of the depraved, because a lot of these people suffer from severe mental illness. And Long Beach, the city, is taking the brunt of a lot of that. There was a girl walking down the street, and a homeless guy with his pants down came up and attacked her from behind. There was a homeless guy that was sitting there diddling in front of a beauty shop, and the police took 90 minutes to get there. But if they get a call that a guy is smoking weed in their car, you know, they'll be there within moments.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think personally a group like You Are the Power is so important, that they see people of a libertarian mindset, not necessarily the Libertarian Party, that solutions are better served by the private sector than the government.
Absolutely. And we see that all
voluntarily.
the time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
So I just said and voluntarily, you know, like just to help out other people, and then the government wants to get in the way and tell them they got to get a permit to feed people.
Right.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. It just in Long Beach. So I am in Long Beach. That's where I live. And I used to make food and bring food to the Long Beach shelter on a very regular basis. They can't take my food anymore
How
because
long
they're not
ago did they stop being able to take it?
right, because it's not like government approved food. It wasn't done in like a union kitchen or something like that. So
Mhm.
they won't take my food anymore. And I used to take food to them. I also give them money, but I used to take food to them. And again, I think, you know, I mean, this is kind of off subject, but it's something like that's dear to my heart, and it's in California. And I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but Katarina's Club. And this is still happening, and there's no involvement with government so far, thank God. But Bruno Serrana, who owns the Anaheim White House, he started this, I believe, 12 or 13 years ago, feeding the motel kids that are living in cars. It's all about the kids, right? And he's now up to feeding like 25,000 kids a week, and
Wow.
they just had a big fundraiser for him. And I think right now it's at about $1 million that they've raised, plus I think another 70,000 pounds of pasta. But, you know, something like that, it hasn't happened, thank God, but it could, because we've seen it in other places. They could come in and say, you have to stop doing that. Now, in his case, he has an actual approved, health department approved kitchen that he cooks it in at his restaurant. So that's probably one of the reasons he's still able to do it. But I don't have that, so I can't make food for people.
Yeah.
Right. So I've been to the White House, beautiful place.
It is.
It's amazing to me that with the raising $1 million and he can feed 25,000 people, the state of California has literally, I think we're in the hundreds of billions of dollars now that they've thrown towards this homelessness problem, and it is only increased. And oftentimes what they do is they spend that money on committees to study the problem, as if we need somebody to make $250,000 to sit down and say, we have homeless people. What can we do? You know, instead of incorporating solutions, and you know, California, the regulatory environment here is like walking. If you've ever walked through spider webs, and you thought you got rid of them off your face, but then you take a few more steps and it's still there. That's California, except we're talking about cobwebs. It's like Indiana Jones walking through a cave with cobwebs and there's tarantulas and all that stuff. That's the regulatory environment here in California. And when people step up, and we're going to continuously reiterate this point, because our ultimate goal is to expand people's horizons on the duopoly and how it's such a mega failure of the highest proportion. When people step up to find solutions and they prove solutions, government views that as competition that it must extinguish and destroy with prejudice and malice. Now, you are the power. Are there any projects that you guys are working on here in California right now or in your region?
Not in California, but right now I do have 2 things in my region that we're working on. And yeah, so I did kind of want to touch on that. They're both in Arizona, as it happens. Okay. One is in Peoria and one is in Sunnyvale, or Sunnyvale. Anyhow, the first one, there's an elderly man. He's I believe a World War II vet. He's in his 90s. He was living in a fifth wheel type of a situation on the property of his granddaughter, primarily because he's okay enough that he wants some independence, but he's elderly. He lost his wife in the last couple of years. So they were in the process of construction of their home on that property. And the minute that the construction ended, they said, Grandpa's got to go. You can't have that fifth wheel anymore. They have an ordinance that says that you can't have that. And so he's got to go. And they were kind of sort of nasty about it, and there may be some, things going on in this small town. And by the way, the town, this is Sunnyvale, it's 2,000 people.
Oh, okay.
But what's happened since is that, people from our organization have gotten involved, gone to the city council meetings, and it's reported that we've been deemed a domestic terrorist organization. And a couple of the people going to the city council meeting that live in the city have been told, and this is, again, this is what it's been reported to me, that they've been told by police, if they show up, they will be arrested for trespassing. This is a city building that their taxes pay for in their community. And all they're trying to do is keep a grandfather in his home for the rest of his life so he doesn't have to go to assisted living. This is so that's one of the things that I'm working on. And the other, and do you have any questions about, do you want to say anything?
Well, the only thing I wanted to interject is, and people need to understand that, I remember that Jason Aldean tried that in a small town. Tyranny is where starts in small towns. That's where it generally begins. And then it expands to greater government offices over time and whatnot. But tyranny always starts locally. So that's the only thing I would say to that.
I was just gonna ask, are the people that were speaking at these city council meetings, are they speaking? You said they're citizens of the community. Are they speaking officially as someone with You Are the Power, or just as someone in the community?
Yeah, the one gentleman, he's been speaking as somebody official from You Are the Power, and he is, he's a member.
But he does live in the community. He does live in the community. Okay, good.
Yeah, he's the one that brought it to our attention. He's a member that brought it to our attention.
Is there a way where other people could preemptively help a fundraiser for legal funds in case he gets trespassed and he needs to sue the city? Because that's obviously First Amendment violations. You know what I mean? The moment they trespass someone and don't give them the ability to speak during the public comments portion of a city council meeting, that's a First Amendment lawsuit waiting to happen, in my opinion. I don't know if that's the way You Are the Power operates. Hey, look, let's go ahead and get ahead of this because we're expecting it. Y'all been doing it longer and much more often. So you probably encounter the same thing over and over.
We've put it out there to our members. I will tell you that the same gentleman he went to the last city council meeting after that being said. He was not arrested. And he actually almost doubled down in what he was saying, I've been told that I might be arrested if I show up here. And one of the other gentlemen who he's on their list because he on Facebook posted a killdozer meme. You know,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, there's one thing I understand about being trespassed from a public building. You have to officially commit a crime first before you can be trespassed. And without that precedent being set, all the threat of arrest, they're delving into a legal area where they can be sued, and there's six-figure settlements that have proved that, you know, that's not a wise move to threaten people, to arrest people because you don't like what they said.
Yeah, and so I think that what they're doing, honestly, is they're kind of doing this thing where they're trying to put fear into people, right? They're not putting any of this in writing. They're trying to do fear. So the other gentleman that posted that meme that I mentioned, he didn't go to the last meeting because he has a small business in town. He decided he wasn't going to go just to be safe, but Henry from You Are the Power, he went anyways. He wasn't arrested, but I think part of this is intimidation. We're going to tell you you're going to get arrested, so therefore you won't show up and you won't say what's really going on, so we don't have to deal with it. Well, he showed up anyways, and we were ready if anything happened. And you know, we've posted this. You know, Spike has a very, very large reach. We've posted this. This has gone out, you know, nationally, and we're trying to do other things too. Like I'm one thing other about me that I didn't mention, I'm a structural engineer. That's what I do for a living.
Awesome.
And so I deal with building departments and building officials and things like that every single day in my personal career. So I tried to reach out as an engineer and You Are the Power person to the city manager to say, can we come up with a way to deal with this? Can we do a variance? Can we do a conditional use permit? Is there something we can do? He won't even return my calls. So, you know, they're not. So we've now applied for those things. We're doing both ways. We're doing it the way that's in their ordinance, and we're also doing it in the way of public outreach, because now we've got even this bigger issue of intimidation.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Are you not allowed to store your RV or trailer on your property in this jurisdiction?
Yes, they have an ordinance that says that you can have that only during the period of time where you're actually constructing something on your property. So they have an ordinance specific to that. But they also in their ordinance have, like I said, they have other things. They have things where you can get a conditional use permit, you can get a variance. And this is a very sparsely populated area. It's not like RVs here, right? You're in California, I'm in California. You see them right on the city street with, you know, people that are infringing on other people's rights by dumping
human waste and every other unimaginable aspect. Yeah.
Precisely. But in this particular instance, this is a very rural area. They actually made hookups for this RV so that all the sewage is going into the sewage, you know, into their septic tank. It's on their property, and it's not even visible from the street because they've got an acre of land, you know. So it's a totally different thing than what we have here in California. But yes, to answer your question, they do have an ordinance. And we're going at it that direction as well by trying to get the special use.
It just, what kept popping in my head when you were speaking right now is, when did America become so tyrannical? And I always tell people, generally it was the Whiskey Rebellion, when George Washington sent federal troops to shut down moonshiners and everybody that didn't want to pay taxes on their liquor. Coincidentally, that's how the Revolutionary War started, was taxes specifically on alcohol. But
well, that was actually tea, I believe. But yeah,
if I can articulate this, it disturbs me, the America that we're going to leave our children, where this type of tyranny can happen, where you're not bothering anybody. It's not an eyesore, because you said it's not visible from the street. It's a guy in his 90s, And this is a problem for our municipalities to tackle, is to make somebody homeless. And we're sitting here fighting the homeless. So supposedly the government is fighting the homeless issue, and it's creating homelessness.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, this is, he wants to be near his family. He needs to be near his family.
Right. That's
He's,
the support system.
and if he wasn't there, I don't believe he'd be homeless. I believe that they'd have to put him in like an assisted living or something like that. But I know, what happens to people at that age when you do that is that's the end of their life, basically. And right now he's known by the community. He walks every day to the post office and to the little market, and he talks to people, and people like him, and this is his life, and that shouldn't be changed because the government is basically, I mean, what it all kind of boils down to is they're not respecting humans, right? There's no human respect. And we need to understand that we should all try to keep the whole idea of respecting other people, respecting what they're doing, so long as they're not hurting us. We need to give them the respect that they deserve. And he deserves our respect.
Do you know if the political makeup of that city council is predominantly Republican, Democrat? I mean, it's probably nonpartisan positions, but
yeah, I have no idea what it is. What I can say is, in a small town, a lot of people wear a lot of hats. I mean, the city manager in question, he was also the building official. He was also the building inspector. He was also on the planning commission. He has all these different hats he takes on and off, which is not unusual in a small town
like that.
I mean, look at the Libertarian Party. Like, how many hats did I wear in the Libertarian Party? Lots. Because we don't have enough people, right? So it's the same thing in a small town. You don't have enough people, so but the mayor of the town, her daughter is on the planning commission. Her daughter is dating the city manager. But this is what happens in small towns, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, and I was just making that point. Like, the fact that they're disrespecting, or they have no respect for like personal private property rights. You know what I mean? That's really what this boils down to, especially the fact that they went through the process of making sure that the fifth wheel was connected to the septic the right way, piped in. You're not just dumping waste everywhere.
Yeah. And by the way, that's one of the reasons why they got cited, is because in the thing, it says that you can't have permanent hookups in their ordinance.
So they could have got away with it if they got away with it. I mean, but had they done like a temporary,
if they did it as a temporary, and the thing left the property and came back, and left the property and came back and wasn't static there, that would have actually, quote unquote, met their ordinance, because you can't have it there for more than 2 weeks. So technically, if you moved it every 2 weeks for 24 hours and brought it back, technically that would meet their ordinance. But that's ridiculous.
How far does it have to move technically?
It doesn't say.
I would for them. I mean, it would be a headache, but once every 2 weeks, I would drive by City Hall with the fifth wheel, wave, "Hey, all right, headed back to the property now." I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, that's
but again, so this is the home of a 90-ish-year-old man, so you don't really want to put him through that.
I know. I'm just
the whole thing is it's about human respect of this man who just wants to live out his life with his family on his family's, on his granddaughter's property.
Just leave him alone.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing to do.
I have a question for both of you, and we'll start with Mimi first. Are we free?
No.
We're only as
I mean,
free.
it's a one-word answer. No. People say that we're somehow free because we live in the United States. We are so far from free, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
We're nowhere close to where we were. I would even say 20 years after the Revolutionary War, we began losing our freedom. Some of us, our ancestors, didn't have those freedoms back then either. But I'm just saying, it's been getting worse every year since 20 years after the Revolutionary War. But like, we're really only as free as we're willing to fight to be, and that's what You Are the Power is doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're taking the fight to the front steps of tyranny, and they're trying to prevent and help this, at least this one small town, multiple small towns throughout the United States, to not become these tyrannical government. And not to get too deep into the weeds of libertarian stuff and the party riff, but you hear the guys in the Mises Caucus say, "Oh, decentralization." Well, look what's happening at the local level of a town with 2,000 people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if we can't take the fight to the doorsteps of a city council, and I don't know how many they have, but it's a population of 2,000. I mean, I felt it in Jacksonville. It's a population of 1 million. You couldn't get anything done. That's whenever I decided to run, because I went to city council meetings for a year and a half, and they still kept growing the tyranny. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
No,
I was just going to
made me
circle
cry.
back really quick to something you said. You asked which, if we knew what, the party politics of these people were. I don't think it matters. You know why? Because whether it's Democrats, Republicans, nobody's, whatever, when you're in those seats in these towns, government in general, it wants to create a situation. We talked about this before, that they're needed, that they're useful, that they have to be there, that we need them. And I think that once they have that power, it doesn't matter what their supposed partisan politics are.
Mm-hmm.
They want to make sure that they have that power, whether it be over how we feed a homeless person or where an elderly man lives on a fifth wheel on his granddaughter's property. They want to be involved. Once they get elected those positions, they feel like they have the power to make sure that they can control your life.
Yeah,
and it doesn't matter on party.
The control is based on fear, and I talk about this all the time. Our government doesn't sell you good ideas; it sells you fear, because fear is a natural human emotion that drives us to make rash decisions and support things that are not necessarily in our best interest. And that's what this city council is doing. That's what Democrats and Republicans do in the big mega government organizations. They sell you fear, because if they sold you solutions, they wouldn't have a issue to run on. And what You Are the Power is doing is bringing you solutions, and that's why it's a threat, and that's why they're being threatened with arrest and prosecution, because you're disrupting the natural flow of tyranny. And tyranny is a river of bullshit, and it's deep, it's fast, and it runs fast. And that's what our government does.
Mm-hmm. And in this small town, they're not used to this kind of scrutiny. They're not used to this kind of spotlight, because You Are the Power has gotten involved.
Right.
This is spotlighted to the entire country, right? This has been viewed by many, many people all over the country. Many of those have sent messages to the town council, to, the people that are the council people, the mayor. And they don't like it because they're not used to that. It's a small town. They're not used to this spotlight. And so I think they're also scared now, because they're scared of losing this.
And
that's why they're calling us terrorists, possibly. And again, I say, I didn't hear it, but this is what I was told was said by somebody in the city government.
So I'm going to say something controversial, and this is not a threat by any means to any specific government or government in general. But I truly believe, based on the Revolutionary War principles this country was founded upon, that politicians should do their jobs like their lives depend on it. And I'm not saying that we should go kill politicians, but we should have people who understand that when in a republic, when you elect representatives, they are supposed to be representatives of the people, not themselves, not of corporations, not of special interests, not of anything that, I say this a lot too. The American citizenry doesn't have a lobbyist in any state capital or in Washington, D.C. every industry has a lobbyist that represents their interests. But once we elect these Democrats and Republicans, they no longer have a interest in the well-being of the American people, no matter what they say, because every bill they pass is submitted by a lobbyist to a specific uh, member of Congress, and they introduce the bill based on how much money they got from that lobbyist. And at the local level, it's even more corrupt because you have special interests that fund everybody's campaign. As both of you know, who both ran campaigns, you know that there's businesses that want specific people in office because they know they have them in their pocket. So, you know,
And that's what I was going to say about it's weird with the situation in that small town with only population of 2,000 people is you wouldn't think there would be like entrenched special interests that are, you know, being hurt by someone living with a fifth wheel on their property. The fact that such a small town even has such a strict ordinance to me is kind of mind blowing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, none of it really makes sense. I mean, you know, but again, we're trying to get to the bottom of it. We're trying to go from both directions, both the government, you know, bureaucracy direction to try to just make this work. And then the other direction, which is to bring attention to the fact, and, you know, the community, they're for him. And I'm going to switch hats really quickly. Cause remember I said, I've got the libertarian hat and or I don't know if I said that while we were on, but the you are the power hat. So switching hats, libertarian hat, you know, you said something interesting. You said that the government is tyranny and all of these things and that government, but here's the rub. It's the people that elect those people into office, and they've been brainwashed into thinking they have to elect one of those two parties that, in my opinion, are exactly the same. They're two sides of the same coin. They both want power. They both want to grow. They both want to make sure they have jobs. And it's out of fear that the people are electing these people over and over and over again. And that's, you know, that's the problem, is that people need to realize they don't just have those two options. They have other options. One of those options is libertarian. And as a libertarian, you know, I believe that we do have good solutions. As putting on my other hat, you are the power is showing that the people of the communities can rise up and they can fight against this tyranny. And oftentimes that works, right? You know, I mean, another example of, you know, you are the power is, we had a recent one, which was in South Carolina, actually. And it was, it's one it's kind of almost over now, but it was a group that was feeding the homeless, Erica Brown, and it's Be Kind to Be Great. And she was feeding people, and they went after her, and they were saying that she was causing a public nuisance because they were feeding these people. They ended up having a march, and they called it a Walk a Mile in Our Shoes march. And they went and they invited all the city council people to come and actually see how this all happens, and find out that the businesses weren't upset with this because this was helping the people in the community. And by helping them, it was keeping them off of the front of their businesses, causing a nuisance. It was doing exactly the opposite of what the city council and the mayor were saying that it was doing. And so by Spike and by others going, or I don't know if Spike went to that, but that was mainly Jason Lyon, went down there. And it's just a matter of the community gathered together, and there was lots and lots of people and lots of media walking a mile in the shoes of those unhoused people and seeing what it is they're going through. And that brings the community together to realize that they have the power to fight the government.
That was Columbia, South Carolina, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Spike, I didn't end up making it, but Spike was there because Tubb, he's a pastor out of Jacksonville. Him and his wife, he also ran for city council in Jacksonville, Florida, but they went to that event because Pastor Tubbs' wife has a homeless ministry in downtown Jacksonville, and she also helps bring food and give clothing and first aid kits and everything to the homeless. So Spike was there. I've been following You Are the Power. And my grandmother-in-law lives in Columbia, so I was following that
Okay, and I
situation.
thought Spike was there, but I didn't want to say it for sure for positive
Yeah.
because I couldn't. Because there were several different things that they did. They did the march, they did the city council,
Mhm.
and one thing I got to say is when Spike goes to these city council meetings for the 2-minute, public comment.
Yeah.
I mean, he is so good, and it's like at the end, it's like mic drop. He has just,
Yeah.
in Gastonia, it's like, you have two choices. You can either let this man feed the people and do the work of God and get out of his way, or you can be the problem. And if you do that, I will make sure everybody in this city, in this state, in this country knows who you are.
Yeah.
And it was just like mic drop. And in 2 minutes, he got such a point across, which is one of the reasons why I love Spike. And I love his wife. I think they're great people.
So, real quick before we switch gears, I'm not trying to take the mic from you, Marcus, but I had a question for Mimi. How does You Are the Power go about, I guess, finding out about these issues, choosing the ones, and going about the decision-making process on how we're going to attack these issues?
Well, gosh golly, I'm so glad you brought that up.
A great question.
It's an excellent question. One of the ways is by people joining You Are the Power, which, by the way, you can do for free. You just go to youarethepower.net and join as a free membership, or you can give money, which is even better because, a lot of this stuff takes money because we all know stuff takes money, right? But we get a lot of this information, like, for instance, the one we were just talking about with Joe Woods, that came to us from a member in Sunnyvale, Arizona. So our membership brings us the stuff. And then we also get information from other places. We also see it and sometimes seek it out. There's one that I'm kind of working on where I'm seeking it out, and it has to do with a dog being killed by police. And one thing I didn't mention is I've always been also a huge animal activist. So that was something that hurt my heart. But people can send us emails. And so there's a council that kind of looks through the stories and looks at what people are sending us. The group that I'm involved in, which is, the regional organizers, we have our membership. We bring things to the group. And then when we decide, which of these stories we're going to get involved in, because, let's be honest, some people, they'll send us their story is they got a parking ticket that was really completely unjust. It's okay.
Yeah.
But, then there's a story like the ones I've talked about where, wow, this is something. And the community is behind the individual involved. And we will absolutely go and help that community get a spotlight on this and try to fight this injustice. So that's how we kind of work. So there's a couple different, there's the council that kind of gets a lot of influx of stuff. And then the stuff that just comes in organically from outside. And then, of course, the stuff that comes in from our membership. And part of that also is having the membership in all of these different areas so that when we have that, we have people to help, organize in those communities. Because my region is 5 states. One of it is Hawaii. I can't just hop over to Hawaii any, given day of the week, right? I can't just hop over to Arizona or Utah or Nevada either, so we have to have people. So we also have state organizers. And by the way, I'm looking for a couple more state organizers in a couple of my states. So I don't know where this goes out, but yeah, join and also just, send us emails and we look for, we find some stuff just kind of because we find it. A lot of stuff gets brought to us by people that have heard about us from these other things. So yeah. Did that answer the question, or did I go off on a
very good?
I think so too. And we're going to touch on the contact information before we wrap this up. But we're going to switch hats a little bit here because I wanted to talk about the 800-pound libertarian gorilla in the room with the election of Javier Milei was that last week?
A couple weeks ago, I think, at this point, but yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of libertarians here in the United States, they took that as a victory. And I understand why, because he is an outsider that made it to the highest office in Argentina. Um, but I took it as I'm more of a cautious approach to his presidency, because I don't think we necessarily should be hanging our hats or jumping on the wagon with him just yet. What are you guys? Mimi, we'll start with you. What your opinion of his election?
I agree 100% with you. I've looked at, what he stands for, and, and albeit some of it, looks kind of libertarian to me. Some of it does not look at all libertarian to me. He's been quoted as being, kind of like a kind of more Trump kind of person, which I don't look at as being libertarian. I think it's a huge wait and see to also see what he ends up doing
Right.
in the office, to see if he follows up or follows through on the things that he promised that were more libertarian. I think the fact that some media is calling him libertarian has made people really excited and jump up and down for joy, because we've got a libertarian president in Argentina. And that sounds really good, but is he really, he seems far more on the conservative bent, which, could be libertarian-ish. But yeah, I'm with you. It's a definite wait and see. And I'm currently not jumping up and down for joy, because I see some things that he believes in that I don't.
Yeah, I got you. What about you, Eric?
I think it was exciting, you know what I mean, to see someone, a political outsider, beat the major parties in their country. So that part to me is encouraging for, former candidate and someone involved and wants to see third parties challenge a duopoly. Now, I think they have I forget the type of elections there, but he actually was in like their version of parliament or whatever,
Yeah.
and he got only 17% of the vote. So basically, they had someone in the Libertarian Party there had to be elected to 17% of the parliament. I don't know. There's a term for that type of election system. I can't remember it, but that helped him get some of the notoriety and build a brand, I guess. But I'll agree. Now, I will point out that a lot of the media, the American media, mainstream media, has actually not even been using the term libertarian to describe them. If you go back, and you can find clips everywhere where they call him a right-wing guy or a populist. And I'm not saying that none of that's true, but I am saying a lot of the mainstream media here is getting away from even using the term libertarian to describe them. And I don't know if that's because, they're controlled as well by the duopoly, the mainstream medias I'm talking about, and they don't want the term libertarian to be used so often. But yeah, he said some stuff, definitely a lot of right-wing populism, you know what I mean, more or less. And then he'll occasionally quote a Milton Friedman or a Hayek or somebody, and that's where, like, oh, look, he's a libertarian. But it was exciting to see an outsider, or at least a with liberty-minded, win an election against the major parties.
I agree with that. I think it is a precedent-setting election, and I am excited in the sense that I want to see what he does. But I think there's peril in endorsing him so broadly as, finally, like the finally guy.
Yeah.
Number one, I hate his fucking haircut. And I am not going to apologize for that shit whatsoever. It's like a mask between Justin Bieber and the Arctic Monkeys. It's just some shit that I can't get with. And I'm a bit of a history buff. And whenever I see an Argentinian or Brazilian with a Italian or German last name, I'm naturally kind of like, oh, I'm gonna take a step back, because
I know where. Yeah.
If you know why Italians and Germans ended up in Argentina, then you know that they were very, very far right individuals that were probably trying to escape prosecution, not persecution, prosecution for their activities in World War II. With that being said, uh, I think we should give him the benefit of the doubt, but he has a whatever their parliament, Congress, or whatever it's called. He does not have a majority. And the thing about him trying to switch to the dollar, which I think is a bad idea because the dollar is shit. It's fiat currency. And it is a bad idea, in my opinion, even though apparently whatever their peso, whatever the fuck they use, is fucked up too. We need to understand that this may not be the guy who helps us in America because he is up against the wall, whatever negative. He has a Mount Everest decline to bring Argentina out of their current despair. And if he fails, the media is going to say libertarians aren't shit. Look at all these libertarians that propped up this guy that said we finally got a guy in office, and he fucked up, and then we have to start from building block one again. Because like I've been saying this all year long, we have an opportunity in 2024 to make some progress on the national stage, because we have these two old geezers that the American people are going to have to choose from. And if we could present a viable option just to show that this is a logical choice to have a reasonable third party, we don't necessarily need to be tied to him.
I don't disagree.
Yeah. I think it is a huge wait and see. And fully wrap yourself around him in another country isn't necessarily going to help us anyway. I mean, how is that really truly helping us as a party?
Not at all. Yeah, not at all. And I want to go back to his haircut for a minute.
You are really hung up on that haircut,
dude. Every time I see him, I was like, who the hell told him this is the look? I mean, that was so early 2000s here, and we have the guy. It's very all right. It's effeminate to me. All right, so I would say his haircut is very effeminate to me, and I'm not like this macho guy myself. I'm a regular dude. I believe in the ERA and all that stuff because whatever. But his haircut is just it bothers me so much. And that's not the reason. I don't dislike the guy because I don't know enough, but I do know he praised Trump and he's friends with Bolsonaro, the former president of Brazil, who is called a tropical Trump. And that gives me reason for pause. And we've all came to similar conclusions already in this last 3-4 minutes about how should we handle this. But I just want to speak to my fellow libertarians for a moment. I was like, take your time, bro. Don't necessarily get too involved in this guy. He hasn't even been sworn in yet. So let's take a pause because he has a tough mountain to climb.
And I'll say this: if he truly is a libertarian, the American establishment isn't going to help or let him succeed. You know what I mean? They're gonna intentionally sabotage any good he tries to do. So
that's true. I mean, I like what he says. About the private sector and that. There was one thing where I don't like the quote left right paradigm and all that stuff, because I think, like Mimi was saying earlier, it's the same coin. It's there's nothing different between the left and the right. It's just one tyranny has a bow on it. The other tyranny is just a plain shit sandwich. I always say choosing between Democrats and Republicans is like choosing between a bowl of hot diarrhea soup or a cold shit sandwich.
Yeah.
That's basically the duopoly, in my opinion. But he has to go up against a duopoly type system in his own country, and they want to see him fail because they lost. So we need to make sure the narrative matches the results of what we're going forward. You know, at any rate.
I
And
gotta
Mark,
tell you, I never noticed his haircut. It didn't even. It's really funny. I'm gonna have to really go look at that now because I've
oh,
seen
it's obvious.
and it's like it didn't like beat me over the head.
Well, now that I said that, I'm sure you're gonna go forth and be like, "Holy shit, this guy!" You know, I think we're of the same generation where the Aquanet was very popular. Aquanet hairspray, and this dude, he has a fabulous hairstylist. He because Argentina considers itself the European epicenter of South America. They don't identify so much with Latin America as the majority of the countries over there. They like to identify themselves with Europe more so than South America. And it's a very interesting history of that country and its doings over the last 100 years or so. Like I said, I'm a amateur history buff. But as we wrap up, we're approaching. We just touched over an hour. Mimi, can you give us contact information and whatnot for You Are the Power and yourself, and so people can
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So You Are the Power is youarethepower.net. And it's just how it sounds, youarethepower.net. You can reach me at mimi.robson, and my last name is Robson, Robson. So it's Mimi period Robson at youarethepower.net for anything You Are the Power related. And if you want to talk to me about anything libertarian, candidate, that kind of stuff, you can reach me at my own email, which is hmrobson, the number 1 at gmail.com. So
Gotcha.
that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm not, I forgot to mention one other thing. The day I met you, Marcus, I was elected vice chair of the Libertarian Party of Los Angeles County.
Oh, awesome.
So
hell yeah.
So
yeah,
it's kind of a demotion from chair of the state party, but but yeah, if you're in Los Angeles County and you want, to get more involved in the county party, you can reach me at vice chair at lp-lac.org.
Awesome.
So that was all 3 of my hats in quick succession.
There you go.
Do you have a closing statement that you want to say to the people that are listening, watching, and etc.?
Yeah, I would love to. And this is going to be just from my You Are the Power hat.
Okay.
I would love for more people to get involved in You Are the Power. I think what we're doing is amazing. Spike Cohen himself is an amazing spokesperson for what we want to see in the country, in the world, in our local communities. And I think that the work we're doing, the more people we have helping, the better. So, please think about joining. Please think about getting involved. This is putting real action in now, not waiting for some time where we've got electeds to do something for us or whatever. This is doing something now, getting involved in your communities, grassroots, stopping the government from using force and coercion, and focusing on respecting each other. Period. Oh, and that was my husband.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey.
He's like, oops.
No worries. Eric, did you have anything?
No, man. Appreciate it, Mimi, for coming on and telling us all your different hats that you wear. So
and you guys are both wearing hats and sunglasses, and I realized what I should have done is first of all worn sunglasses, and second of all actually had all these different hats.
All these hats that you can.
That would have been
You are
fun.
the power. Libertarian.
Yeah, so next time I'm going to do, next podcast I'm on, I'm going to have hats sitting next to me so that I can just, and plus that will cover like my face, so that you don't see how tired I am. So yes, thank you so much for having me on. I've really enjoyed it.
Well, I would ask you in closing that if you do have a situation, issue, a case that you want to publicize or get some more media attention to, that you reach out to me and we will book you for the following episode, hopefully, if not the following, the one after that, because I really appreciate what you and Spike are doing, because I think this is how we get to solutions. Because if you think government will ever, hold on, we had a celebrity check in with us.
Lars.
Yes, I love Lars. Lars is my friend.
We love Lars here on the Black Powder Podcast 100%. He's an awesome guy. I wish you would come to LA and hopefully I kind of want to rearrange my schedule where I could be at the convention. I'm gonna see about that.
I hope you can. And other hat.
Yeah.
Libertarians, if you're a libertarian in California, if you let your membership lapse, right? Because I know a lot of people did.
Mm-hmm.
Please renew your membership and come to the convention in February in Orange County. It's super important that we all go to Orange County in February and be there to work on issues with the party.
100%. 100%. That's the convention is only like 25 minutes away from where I live, and I'm torn right now between my family and libertarianism, if that's even possible. But it'll eventually get worked out one way or another. But thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
And like I said, please let us know when you have you are the power issue that needs to be spoken to, so the American people can truly understand that you are the power is the gap between tyranny and a better and more polite society, where we could start saying like libertarians are the ones that actually want you to be free and live your life, because that's what libertarian ultimately is. Leave you the hell alone. And if you want to feed people, the government should not have a problem with that. If you want to expose government corruption, the government should have a problem with that, because that's what we're in a republic, and in a republic, the people are the power, and hence you are the power.
That's right. So, you are the power.
Yes.
You are the power. Real quick, Marcus, why don't you plug them sponsors?
Oh, my bad. Common Arms Trade Company has been zucked once again by Facebook. They're on X and damn it, I forgot his other platform that he Telegram. But Common Arms Trade Company out of Florida and 1776 Swag proudly bring you the Black Powder Podcast on Firearms Radio Network. So with that being said, thank you all for listening, watching, whatever media you chose. Mimi, you want to say anything, goodbye to the people or whatever?
Bye.
Eric? And in closing, as always, we ask that if you're a true American, you understand this concept and principle. Live free
or die.
Hasta luego.